Hello, my Facebook community. It's Sarah Oblex Spiker here. And for some reason, technology was really sluggish. So I'm redoing this video because you couldn't even follow earlier. So this is take two of becoming and being and dancing this tango between waiting and creating. So as I mentioned earlier, recently I've been noticing for myself and in conversations that I've been having this interesting tango, so to speak, between fully being present in a moment, fully being in the space and with the truths that are being unveiled and vibrationally matched to us. And in the meantime, knowing that we are in the process of becoming, up leveling, upgrading, evolving, and tapping into the big vision that might be a lot different from our current reality. So I have been noticing, like I said, for myself and with the conversations I've been having, that in this space, what ends up happening is that there's this crack through which self-doubt comes in, and uncertainties and censorship. We are censoring ourselves because we are anticipating this shift and up leveling and evolution, and for some reason we tend to think that whatever is going to be on the other side is going to be so much different that we are going to be waiting until we get there, and we're going to waiting for us to create something, and we're going to be waiting for us to reach out to somebody. We're going to wait out in order to initiate a contact or a project or a possibility, right? Like I said, I have found myself in this space quite a few times through the past couple of years, and it's a really interesting observation when it's almost like this out-of-body experience when you observe your own thought processes, when you observe the train of thought and your responses and things that are leading up to it, and how we choose to react and respond, and then processing everything and then moving forward. Quite fascinating, actually. So I felt called to share this with you and to initiate this conversation with you, because I also have learned that every single time I chose to censor myself and every single time I chose to hold back was simply not trusting the process and not trusting the fact that every single thing that was coming up for me was my truth in that particular moment. That meaning I was not in a space of fully being, and therefore I was not able to recalibrate and move on to the next stage of growth and evolution and up leveling. Quite a fascinating conversation if you're a student of personal development, if you're a student of quantum physics, if you're a student of spiritual world. There's so many different nuances, and there's so many different ways of how to actually pragmatically explain this process and teach this process if you have not experienced it yourself. And one of the things that were when I first started to become a part of this world, it was so amazing for me to finally get the point of reference and the vocabulary and be able to say, oh yeah, this is what it is. I get it now. I have experienced it, but I had no idea what to name it, where to put it, what label to put on it, because as human, we just operate in this way, right? We need labels. We need to be able to put certain things in certain compartments for them to make sense. So a whole different conversation for a whole different time. What I wanted to invite you into, and the reason why I wanted to initiate this conversation, is that it does not really matter what level or where in your journey, where in this process, because it's an ongoing process. It doesn't really matter where we are and what's on the paper, the level of so-called success on the paper. We are all on this journey where we are simultaneously being and becoming. And it is this art and science to be fully present in a moment, to be in this spaciousness and notice all the beauty that is around us, and giving ourselves a permission to just be and to rest. And also in the meantime, becoming and creating and evolving and putting new things out there, initiating conversations, acting out on impulse, responding to the, some of us feel it in our gut, some of us feel it in our heart when we feel called to move or to do something or to pack up the bags and go across the world, or resolve a business that on a paper might be successful but deep down you have outgrown it, or to completely change your business model and you have to have uncomfortable conversations with your team because you no longer want to be a part of this huge machine just for the sake of keeping it going. Well, your heart is calling you for something much smaller, so much more intimate, and yet incredibly impactful, right? So the levels of conversations and the journey and the tango between being and becoming, they're applicable in so many ways, and it's far from just being in a business, it's also being in a personal life. I have caught myself the other day being super triggered with literally doing the dishes. Really, I was observing myself. I was like, wow, isn't this fascinating? Where is this coming from? And what I noticed was right before that, I was thinking about one of my desires and one of my goals that obviously had to be put on hold right now because the world is still, many parts are still on lockdown. The traveling is still not being made possible and is being restricted. And I'm starting to really, itch to pack up my bags and go somewhere. I was like, I started to feel it. And I was being triggered by doing freaking dishes. And what was coming up for me was how doing the dishes was this redundant work that I did not want to do in the moment. And it then transitioned into the space of, what was it? Something about being supported and being enough and being worthy. And then the whole money story was coming up for me. And then this whole crack appeared where my victim mentality was coming up and was being pounded down by the, oh no, you're supposed to be super independent and strong and this invincible being because you're setting examples for your daughters. What kind of role? I mean, it went on and on and on and on. And my husband came into the space and he was like, are you okay? By this time I was already at my journal because I knew I had to process it, and I have my own way of processing it, and it involves putting things on a paper, otherwise they just snowball in my head, right? And it's one of the techniques that I'm also working with my clients in order to resolve things in a matter of seconds as opposed to days or weeks or even months. But yeah, he approached me, he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so what's going on? And I explained to him, I was like, no, it was just interesting. I'm just processing the experience I've just had come up, and it was just a train of thought and, the domino effect. And he goes, what do you mean? It's like, buckle up. I'm going to explain it to you, but buckle up. Halfway through, he's like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. But it's amazing how no matter, again, like I said, no matter at what level we are, no matter where on this journey we are, whether it's personal or business, especially for us women, I have experienced it's really intertwined. There's no, end to one and then the other starts. And it is this domino effect. And even some of the most accomplished and incredible women out there that I get the joy and privilege to work with and to support, they are saying the same thing, how in those moments when the crack appears and the doubt comes up and the fear and insecurity, all of a sudden all the evidence of why things are not the way they're supposed to be or meant to be, why things are not working out the way they wanted to, all the reasons why, and also the evidence of all of that is suddenly there. Right? And we are wearing ourselves down, we are holding ourselves back because we have this innate ability to, yes, hold the space for the vision and becoming, and also in the space of being. All of a sudden it feels very crowded with all of those stories and patterns that we, on a conscious level, we know we keep repeating, but it's the subconscious level that's still committed to them. So we're literally recreating the 3D reality that supports those subconscious patterns and beliefs and stories. So it's a beautiful process of moving through all of that. And you know, sometimes I'm asked, like, why am I so passionate about the work that I do, and why mindset? Why this work in addition to the strategy? And it's exactly, like I said, through my own journey, I realized that, yes, I started out as a strategist. I'm a trained strategist. My MBA degree was nothing but strategies. But what I started to realize in my own journey and with working with my own clients, you can put all that you want on a paper. Like, I can sketch out $1 million business for you at 2:30 in the morning with my eyes closed, literally in no time, and give you the whole blueprint. But it's not gonna matter if there's those cracks where your own insecurities and stories are coming up, and old subconscious commitments are coming up, and you're literally vibrating at a very different frequency from where your vision resides at. Like the radio station, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to tune into techno, you gotta leave the country station, right? You have to shift that. So throughout my own experience, I started to realize that I was only doing a tiny part of the work on behalf of my clients by providing those strategies. But the actual work, the 90% of this foundation that is being built, and oftentimes it gets dirty. Somebody used this amazing analogy: when you are planting a tree, you need to dig up the dirt in order for the new roots to be able to grow. And likewise, when you're pulling it out, you need to pull it out with the roots, otherwise it's gonna grow back. So it's the same dance, being and becoming, the same dance of conscious and unconscious and subconscious, and all of those beliefs and patterns, and the strategic part, and the mindset, and the energetic, and the spiritual. I mean, it's a big dance ball, so to speak. But it's such a fulfilling work, and it's such an amazing work when we put things into motion, when we shift things, when we literally tame our inner lionesses. And there is no end now to this new level of becoming. The whole trajectory of life, trajectory of partnerships, trajectory of parenting and business and leadership, and the impact we're creating and the legacy we're stepping into, it shifts in the moment's notice. And as a ripple effect, as a domino effect, we really put into motion things that are setting you up and supporting you for your lifetime, and are going to be setting your kids up and your clients and your clients' families. And like I said, this ripple effect of a lifetime value. So another thing that I had to really consciously overcome was this bubble, especially in coaching and consulting industry, when everything was being timed in 90-day periods or 6-week thingies, or 6 month to a year containers, when the mountains were supposed to be moved in 6 weeks or 3 months in a year. Well, in fact, yes, time can be collapsed, and time is just an illusion, and sometimes it literally takes a moment to make those massive shifts. However, the bubble that I really had to work on in order to disconnect myself from, in order to create and free up my energetic and mental space to expand the capacity to create and receive more of what was aligned with my vision and who I was becoming, was, like I said, disconnecting from this overwhelming pressure and the need to perform and the need to take responsibility for the results for my clients, as opposed to my clients and them creating results for themselves. And then ultimately just taking the whole results out of the equation and seeing myself just as much as I'm helping my clients and even my girls who are watching very closely and imitating and becoming what they see in me. So it's another layer of responsibility for me to shed off all the stories and detach myself from this old identity that I am my results, that I am only as worth as the numbers on the scale or the scoreboard or the bank account or whatever, the report card in school, right? And I think it's an old paradigm that has those chains, invisible chains that are still holding us back and pulling us down through the years and decades of doing this work. And whew. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it because I love to see that this really resonates. We can talk about it for years. Literally, there's enough material to talk about it for years, especially when we have been raised to be this strong, independent woman. But what ends up happening is that as we're peeling back the layers, this strength and independence is a mask, and it's shielding us from the wound that has been created by the beliefs that, on the other hand, being supported and receiving and allowing things to happen and happen for us not only is not safe, it's selfish, it's irresponsible, it's manipulative. I mean, if I just remember the amount of conversations that I had growing up in the society, in the family, when in the same sentence, in the same breath, somebody, in particular a woman, was told to be strong and independent, and then at the same time called a bitch for being that, called selfish for being that, or called lazy or irresponsible, or, you know, whatever. Fancy, look at her, how fancy she is. She wants to be supported, and, you know, she has this sugar daddy here taking care of her. I was like, wow. And it's not just the lifestyle, it's also about the being, right? If you have not yet, I invite you to really look up the Just Be a Lady, they said, video that is narrated by Cynthia Nixon. It reduced me to tears. The double standards, and yet we're imposing them on ourselves as well, and we are creating this bubble and being remaining in this bubble by ourselves, or by not choosing to step out of it and not choosing to elevate ourselves above it. And I know this is now a whole different tangent of the conversation between being and becoming, and waiting and being still and creating and putting things out there and initiating. Again, it's literally a stream of consciousness that's coming through. If you ask me to repeat one thing, I have no idea what I just said, for full disclosure. But yes, so it is our own responsibility, you know, when looking back at people in our lives and even ourselves at every single moment. And I think that kind of brings it full circle. At every single moment, we ought to trust that we are exactly where we need to be. That everything is exactly perfect timing, perfect circumstances for the exactly perfect lesson that is being offered to us to take, right? So in that every single space, every single moment of being, it just is. However, now the responsibility for the becoming part, this is now on us to move forward in a way that we uproot beliefs and stories and convictions that no longer serve us. That we go and unchain those shackles that are holding us down. That we untame our inner lioness so that we can leap upwards and forwards towards what we are being called and we know in our heart, right? And all of that becoming now becomes our responsibility to really literally unlearn and undo and take radical responsibility, because it's no longer the environment, it's no longer the society, it's no longer these circumstances. Like I said earlier, I was super triggered by inability to pack up my bags and travel. But every single moment I have a choice. Do I get triggered over and over and over about that?
Or do I shift my focus? Do I take whole and complete responsibility for everything that's coming up, and at the same time love on every single thing that's coming up for me? And just this one thought, and then we're gonna go back to our lives. And I thank you for being here and sharing this space with me. If you and I were to meet about 2.5 years ago, and I don't know, you might have been in my circles back then, and if you're new, welcome. So about 2.5 years ago, I started to feel this need to leave New York. I felt the need to take my girls back to Europe, which is where I'm from. And I felt like I have outgrown the society. I have outgrown the environment. I have outgrown our home, which at the time, it hasn't even felt like home to me. It felt like a cage almost. And I struggled a great time because on a conscious level, again, I knew that all of those things were just a construct of my mind, that I had the power to change the context around everything. And yet I felt the need to really answer this calling on my heart and take the girls out of school, take them to Europe for 4 months, which ended up being a glorious experience. And after returning, I remember the feeling actually never went away. I was like, I don't belong here. However, I kept working on myself, and I kept digging deeper, and I kept releasing the old stories and perceptions, and there was a lot. It was a lot that was coming up. But ultimately, it led me to a simple decision that I made, and I remember it was about a year ago, and it was made in a very conscious way. I simply decided differently. And all of a sudden now, this does feel like home. And I was just talking to my husband again the other day. I was like, I finally feel like home. It feels like sanctuary, and I'm so grateful. There's no other place I'd want to be throughout this time with the kids at home. We have this beautiful environment. We are living in this beautiful neighborhood surrounded by amazing people, and we are this nuclear group family together going through all of these things. And I realize how blessed, how lucky we are that we have been spared through, from some of the most horrendous experiences that I know so many others have been facing. But yeah, it all started with a simple conscious shift. And the reason why I wanted to share this with you is that if this does resonate with you, and if you find yourself in a space where, isn't it ironic, we always find a way to find ourselves in the space where we are, it's just not quite where we want to be. And you're finding yourself being triggered, or all of these insecurities and stories and doubts and fears coming up. It is a simple decision. It's not easy, but it's a simple one, and it does not have to take years or decades to process. Like, I had a client who came to me, and we were working together for about a year, and she realized, like, holy shit, it has taken me 25 years to get to this point, and we were able to resolve it in a couple of months. Again, trusting the timing. She wanted to go down the route of, shooting and cutting and guilting and shaming herself, but that wouldn't serve any purpose. It was simply trusting the process, that exactly her process, her journey was exactly the way it was supposed to be, that she needed those 25 years to be able to get ready for this sudden shift and quantum leap. But what I am going to leave you with is that in any given moment, as we are taking a responsibility and we are loving on every single thing that is coming up, in the space of being fully present, in the spaciousness, this is how we ignite and we spring towards the becoming. And this becoming gets to be of our own choosing. So, that was something. I want to say again, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this time and space with me, and for all your hearts. I'm so grateful that this resonated. yeah, I'm now going to go back to enjoying the rest of the afternoon. It's gorgeous here. I know the kids want to go out to the pool, so it's done, it's spoken, and so it is. The pool, it isn't planned for today, so I hope you're going to have an amazing, amazing day ahead of you. And again, you're the architect of your own desire, of your own future. You get to make your life your legacy, and you get to live it out exactly how your deepest and most vibrant desires are calling you out for. All you have to do is choose. As simple as that. Sending you love. Bye.